Ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges. Today, I'll begin by responding for what the government say about this house prefer a world where welfare programs are done through direct cash transfers as opposed to food and or basic necessity handout. First, I will start with my rebuttal segment. First is that cash is more efficient. Efficient for who? Yes, it does administrative workload and may cut distribution costs on paper. But human welfare isn't about just cost per transaction, it's about delivery under real world conditions. In Indonesia, over 30,000 villages experience weak signal coverage based on BPS 2023 when someone's phone is died, gets stolen, or digital infrastructure fails to flush or blackout. And what happened to their age? Physical goods don't crash or need batteries, they are resilient in chaos, unlike failed bank transfers. Next is that you say that cash gives people freedom, but this is a very shallow freedom. Yes, people might choose between rice or medicine, but let's face it, cash is vulnerable. A World Bank study 2019 found that in fragile households, 30 to 40% of unconditional cash transfer were either misused or diverted, especially in dominant male figure. But not just because people are bad, but because power dynamic exists. With in-kind aid, the use is clear. Food is for eating, soap is for hygiene, and you can gamble with a bag of rice. Next is that you say that cash builds dignity, but dignity isn't just about receiving money quietly, but in fact, social dignity often comes from being seen, from being supported and involved. In 2021 SMERU study of Indonesian aid programs, beneficiaries reported higher emotional security and social satisfaction in community distributed aid compared to app-based cash aid because they saw people on the same boat. Okay, that is about my rebuttal. Now I will hop into my argument is that first, cash opened the door to misuse. This is a very clear argument that unconditional cash gives maximum freedom, but also maximum risk. Studies by Innovation for Poverty Action and CGIP show that between 5 to 50% of cash aid in high stress environment get diverted to alcohol, to gambling, or even scams. And that is not just a theory, it's the lived experience from Kenya to the Philippines. Meanwhile, good maintained interns, food get eaten, school supplies get used, even if it trades, their core function is preserved. But cash, however, can disappear without a trace, and once it gone, so is the aid. Sorry. Next is that vulnerable groups are often left behind. Let me break it down. In patriarchal or crowded household, power isn't evenly distributed. According to the Komnas Perempuan 2020, 52% of women in Indonesia say that they don't have control over household spending, and when they are intent receive. So if you transfer cash into a family, who is the actual benefit? And kind aid, by contrast, delivers targeted support. Food package feed the child, sanitary pads go to the girls, diapers reach the baby, not filtered through the family power structure, correct? Next is that cash doesn't guarantee access. Let's take an example. Let's just say that in rural Kalimantan receive 500,000 rupiah, which seems to be great. Like, what they gonna do with that money if the nearest market is 25 kilometers away? The bridge is broken from the landslide and fuel prices have doubled from the inflation. And this isn't hypothetical. In 2022, during the inflation spike, many cash received in Sulawesi and West Papua couldn't purchase basic staples because price rose faster than eggs. And cash does not fix supply chain problem. In kind eggs bring the supply with it, ensuring people get what they need, not just numbers in app. Next, then cash weaken social and support system. Hear me out. Government might say that cash is simpler, but simplicity comes at a cost. Disconnection. Program like school feeding schemes don't just give food, they track malnutrition, monitor attendance, and connect children to along some support, which NGO food deliveries often come with a checkups, maternal support group, and local job training. When we replace this with cash, just by the think of it, we will lose all those wraparound service, and with it, the change to build resilience. Here's the data. A study by the Overseas Development Institute 2021 found that communities with cash-only aid show lower school enrollment, re-enrollment, and weaker health-seeking behavior in a long term, especially in areas hit by a conflict or natural disaster. Now, let's find a real-world example. Real-world comparison is that between Brazil and Uganda. In Brazil, the Phone Zero program distributed food through the local women group, church, and cooperative, and it didn't just relieve hunger, but also it built trust. It created jobs and increased civic participation by 90% over 5 years based on FAO 2018. But Myanmar and Uganda, when they switched to cash, IPA 2022 research found that 20% drops in community meetings, decline in shared child care, and rising tension between households due to aid envy. So why? Why? Because when aid become invisible, so does accountability. People assume you got your share, figure it out, and mutual aid dissolve. Then this isn't just affect the poor, let's say middle class and urban communities suffer too. When this disaster strike, it's RT, Aryans, and informal cage group that act first. And if cash program isolate people, this informal system becomes weaker and more reluctant to act. So let's take our country for example and why it matters, especially in Indonesia, right? So we are a country hit by hundreds of disasters every year: floods, fires, eruption, quakes. In that moment, people don't ask how much cash do you have. They ask who can bring water, where's the volunteer team, and who's cooking tonight. Not how much money you have, who can buy us some GoFood. 2023 BNPB report found that community-led disaster response outperformed digital cash-based and by 3-1 in speed and coverage. That's because recovery is about people, not platforms. Cash may arrive fast, but it doesn't come with boats, it doesn't come with fuel or shelter. So my conclusion is that what I believe as the opposition is that we do not reject the idea of welfare. We reject the idea that it should be individual, invisible, and isolating. The government gives speed, we offer resilience. They promote choice, we protect connection. They send money, we build support system that lasts. Because poverty is not just about personal, it's communal and requires a communal response. Solidarity isn't built just through top ups and bank transfer, it builds through relationship, coordination, and care. And that's why I proud to oppose. Thank you.